Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Oh, welcome all new members. You'll have to bear with me tonight. So many new faces, I might not get all the names. So if you can actually identify yourselves as well when you speak, that would be really helpful. Guys, girls, if you're wearing jackets and want to remove them, please do. This is I welcome everyone to the full council meeting, including members, officers, and any members of the public who may be attending remotely. Please be advised that the meeting will be live streamed and data collected during the recording of the meeting will be retained in accordance with the council's data retention policy. Recording of the meeting may be added to the council's website. The following staff are in attendance: Chief Executive, Monitoring Officer and Democratic Services, the Director of Regeneration and Neighbourhoods, and the Policy and Engagement Officer are in attendance remotely. So agenda item 1 is the emergency evacuation procedure. There is no scheduled test of fire alarm, and if the alarm does sound, please leave the building quickly using the doors find as fire escapes and assemble in the car park at the front of the building and await instructions. If there is anyone in attendance that might require assistance in evacuating the building, please make themselves known. Agenda item 2. I invite the Chief Executive to give apologies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have received apologies from councillors Baldock, Bonnie, Booth, Hall, Lehman, Thompson. Thank you.
Agenda item 3.
And Madam Mayor, Councillor Charlie Miller.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Do members have any interest to declare? Take that as a no. Okay, the next item is my announcements. So I've had quite a little busy first few weeks, and my very first mayoral event was attending St Augustine's Anglo-Catholic Church in Painters-Forster for their 150th anniversary, and was made very welcome by the villagers and congregation who attended. The Men Talk Health Group invited me to their first networking event, and a very powerful and emotional one it was. I had to wipe tears from my eyes several times as some of the men who attended the group told their stories. I was then privileged to be invited to the 40th anniversary of the Arden Theatre in Faversham to unveil their anniversary flag. The following week had a flag waving theme. I proudly attended our blue flag raising ceremonies at Sheerness and Minster, and finished the week waving off the 67th Sitting Bull motorbike run. I got very flag happy there and waved everyone off separately, which was a great fun. I took the opportunity when attending Swale Community Volunteer Services 50th year anniversary to make a point of speaking to all the attendees and using the event as a valuable networking opportunity. A private art viewing in the evening cost Paul a lot of money, as I fell in love with a painting. As part of the Armed Forces Week, I have attended the Armed Forces Cadets and Volunteers briefing in Maidstone Barracks, then attended the Armed Forces flag raising here at Swale House on Monday morning, and not acknowledging Swale Boroughs Council's support of the Armed Forces Covenant. Finally, yesterday I attended Past Mayor Anita Walker's funeral. Regarding my charities, I have decided to support 3 charities now this year, all local ones. The 2 I announced at Mayor Making, Kent Wildlife Rescue Service and Diversity House, and to join them is Challenger Troop, who work with young people, all of them doing amazing work for their local community. And finally, a date for Diaries councillors. I've decided to have a civic mayor welcoming service and a dedication to St Michael's Church Wall on the 23rd of July at 10 AM. It'll be about 40 minutes long. The theme of it is charity and community, and I think post-COVID, post all that's happening in the crisis, I think this will be a lovely theme. So please come join me if you can. and we will be sending formal invites out. Thank you. Item 5 is questions submitted by the public. No questions have actually been submitted. So agenda item 6 is questions submitted by members. 4 questions have been received. So I will ask each member in turn and to ask their question and then invite the member to reply. Okay. So question number 1 is from Councillor Lloyd Bowen to Councillor Tim Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can the leader please confirm that the tenant area of opportunity, which forms or formed part of the paused local plan review, has been taken off the table and out of the local plan by the council, and that this applies to any future reviews of the local plan, both current, paused or new, and where this has been officially documented? Thank you.
Councillor Gibson, would you like to reply? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Bowen, for your question. So the local plan review, as you'll be aware, is in a state of abeyance, and as we wait for the revised National Planning Policy Framework, or NPPF, to be published. This, of course, was due to be published in spring 2023, but is still awaited. The reason why the NPPF is so critical is because it potentially includes revisions that could allow the local plan to progress with a reduced housing figure compared with the 1,086 dwellings per annum we're currently expected to deliver. Once there's certainty, formal stages of the local plan review can progress at pace because officers have been continuing with the necessary background work needed. It will then be for officers to present potential development allocations to the Policy and Resources Committee for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Bowen, do you have a supplementary question to ask?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Gibson, for your response there. So to summarise, that's that in terms of the question. No, it's not off the table at the moment, pending what happens in the future. Thank you.
Councillor Bowen. Question number 2 is from Councillor Ashley Wise, again to Councillor Tim Gibson. Councillor Ashley Wise, we've asked your question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A recent spate of slingshot attacks on people, pets and property in my ward underscores how rising antisocial behaviour is affecting our communities after a decade of deep government cuts to policing. Does the leader of the council understand why my residents expect Kent's Police and Crime Commissioner to be doing more, given they hiked their council tax element by 6.57%, more than twice the rise from this council?
Councillor Gibson, would you like to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Wise, for that question. Clearly, I cannot speak for the Police and Crime Commissioner on the setting of the precepts or the current method of delivery of his neighbourhood policing. That said, Councillor Palmer is our representative on the Police and Crime panel, and I will ask him to take forward our residents' concerns. I'm aware through discussions with our Borough Commander that the rollout of a new neighbourhood policing model commenced in June, which will see an increase in police officers at neighbourhood level. As a council, we continue to engage with the police positively through the Community Safety Partnership and look to tackle these issues with our limited resources.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Ashley Wise, do you have a supplementary question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for that, Councillor Gibson. Given the government expects us to be grateful for finally getting round to replacing the police that they spent so many years cutting from our streets, and noting what you said about Councillor Palmer, I invite you both to write to the Police and Crime Commissioner to detail when exactly the residents of Swale can expect to see more visible policing on our streets.
Councillor. Short reply, Councillor Gibson.
Yes, Councillor Wise, as I alluded to previously, the new neighbourhood model has literally just been released within the last couple of weeks. But I'm more than happy, and as I'm sure, I don't wish to speak for Councillor Palmer, I'm sure he will be enjoying me in writing a letter to our PCC asking just when we can expect to see more police and repeat nowhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Our third question is from Councillor Kieran Golding to Councillor Tim Gibson. He's working on tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This administration is very much focused on supporting pride in our towns and neighbourhoods. As the leader of the council, therefore share mine and my residents' concerns that this objective is threatened by Kent County Council proposals to close the Faversham Household Waste Recycling Centre, which will mean a 20-minute minimum drive to the nearest recycling centre, which will be Canterbury or Sittingbourne. This is all happening in a time when we are meant to be promoting and encouraging people to reduce their carbon footprint. It could also result in Swale Borough Council facing increased costs to clear fly tips and dumped rubbish, which will inevitably rise. All this happening at a time when it's reported that Swale already has one of the highest rates of fly tipping incidents in Kent.
Thank you, councillor Golding. Councillor Gibson, please.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Golding, for that question. You will see from my recent press statement that I clearly understand the need for all local authorities to look at how to save money against a background of increasing costs and inadequate funding. But it is difficult, if not impossible, to make any informed judgment on the impact these proposals will have on our residents, given the lack of data that's available to us. We are, of course, concerned by the amount of additional journeys that will need to be taken and the impact they will have on routes that contain air quality management areas within them. Kent is saying that there are 6,000 additional homes that would need to be more than 20 minutes drive from their nearest household waste recycling centre. But this figure, of course, is based on optimum traffic conditions, and round trips were likely to be in excess of an hour for most users from Faversham or Laysdown if travelling at the weekend. Unfortunately, there are too many unanswered questions. Will people make the longer journey, or will it end up in the household waste? This will mean more contaminated recycled loads and additional journeys being needed by our bin collection. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Gibson. Councillor Golding, do you have a supplementary question?
No supplementary question. Thank you, Councillor Leader Gibson.
Thank you, councillor Golding. And the fourth question is councillor Dolly White, councillor Tim Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Would the leader of the council like to join me in congratulating all involved in delivering prestigious blue flag status at Sheerness and Minster Lees beaches? And does he agree that we can all play our part as a community and volunteers in partnership with the council in ensuring they are clean and tidy for all to enjoy this summer?
Councillor White, councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm so glad I actually attended this evening. And apologies, members, for not bringing my interpreter. So, thank you for that question, Councillor White. I would echo the thoughts of the Ward Councillor for Sheerness, and our coastal assets are an important part of the borough. Obtaining the blue flags at Sheerness and Minster and the Seaside Ward at Laysdown is an ongoing achievement, and there are strict criteria that has to be met. This includes working with water agencies on bathing quality, providing the beach cleaning team resource that empties bins and clears debris off the beach, contracting the world-leading RNLI to provide lifeguarding during the season, and providing ancillary services such as public toilets, food and beverage concessions. We are aware of the recent problems with a high volume of rubbish washing up on the beaches this winter. Our teams are working on removing this as quickly as possible, including additional specialist resources where needed. We also remain committed in taking enforcement action against those that fly tip the waste. We are ever grateful for the fantastic support of the local community and voluntary organisations that help us out with the litter picks. We provide grants for local groups to get litter picking equipment and can take the rubbish collected away after the event. If anyone in your community is interested in joining, they can contact cleansing@swale.gov.uk. Thank you.
Councillor Gibson. Councillor White, have you a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to invite anybody that is interested to obviously join in with the litter picks that Lee Gibson has highlighted, and congratulate Sheerness Ward and Clemsley Ward for coming forward with community litter picks that have been active in the very first element of it. And the question is for the leader, but for everybody else. If you'd like to find out more information, let me know, and we'll make sure that we can support that as part of the environmental push for Swale as well. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor White. Councillor Gibson. Can you make sure your mobiles are on silent? Really, someone's was going quite nicely there.
Apologies, Madam Mayor.
Apologies, etc. Okay, we're on to agenda item 7. I will ask the leader to read his statement, and then I will ask the leaders of the opposition groups to respond in the usual way. Following that, we invite other members to respond to the leader's statement. Members invited to speak will have 3 minutes. This item has an overall time limit of 30 minutes. To ensure broad fairness, I will try to invite responses from members of the administration and opposition groups in roughly equal numbers. This may mean that I deviate from the order in which members have indicated to wish to speak. Can I please remind members that responses must be responses to the issues raised in the statement. I invite Councillor Gibson to give his verbal statement, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and knowing me as you do, you're probably not surprised to know that I won't be taking too many of those minutes that are available to me. So, on being elected leader of this council, I said that we would remain committed to working positively with all parties as we strive to achieve our ambitions to deliver for our residents throughout this borough. To that end, I and colleague coalition leaders have already agreed to meet regularly with leaders of the opposition groups to informally discuss issues in an air of mutual trust and respect. Of course, the intent to work with all parties is not mutually exclusive, but has equal significance and importance looking outwardly as it does looking inwardly. In support of that drive, since being elected, I have attended and represented our council at cross-party meetings with the Greater North Kent leaders. I had a very positive meeting with the MP for Sittingbourne and Sheppey, and I've attended the Kent Leaders Forum, which includes leaders, chief executives, and representatives from every district council and both of the higher tier councils in this county. Having attended these meetings, what I can say is that there is an inextricable similarity in emerging themes that are common to every one of those councils, and there's a real will to work together in a supportive way to achieve the best outcomes county-wide. On a truly pleasurable note, I had the privilege of meeting community leaders, volunteers and invited guests at the reopening of the Sheerness Dockyard Church, having attended the serious fire there in my previous professional capacity. The 2001 fire, that is, not the one 120 years earlier. I was absolutely amazed to see this true phoenix of a restoration, sympathetically maintaining many original features, echoing times long past, and cleverly combining it with the light and airy, more contemporary style of the new interior aspects. On the day of the celebration, we were also looking forward to welcoming the Henry Davison MP to Sheerness too, but unfortunately her planned visit had to be cancelled. But we do hope to be able to welcome her at some point in the future. Moving forward, we face many challenges and difficult choices will have to be made. Our economy is barely off life support, and we face the stark reality that so many of our residents are sadly just not going to be able to manage. But as a coalition, we're committed to looking at addressing the issue of affordable housing and homelessness, and we'll continue in our quest to tackle health inequalities, particularly in terms of GP provision and accessing appropriate services locally. The continuation and impetus in the excellent progress that we've made on environmental issues, which has put this council at the forefront nationally, will remain a priority also as we go forward. We will strive and lobby for educational opportunities for all our youngsters in a system that's fit for purpose and allows them to have and realise their own ambitions and dreams. Skills gap in particular is an issue for us all, and we look at how we can provide innovative ways to address this moving forward. We must also not forget our businesses that are really struggling, especially our high streets and local centres, and how we might help them to create opportunities and support them in challenging financial times for all. There is much, no, very much, that is special and unique about Swale, and it is our role as members to make it a better, safer, kinder and prosperous place for people to live, work and visit. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Can I invite now Councillor Bowen to give his response to the statement, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whilst I didn't say much at the annual council, frankly, I thought the light should be on the new leader in his speech, and I really do look forward to a good working relationship with him and all group leaders and councillors in the coming years. I genuinely wish him and the council well and respect the huge financial issues that he, the administration and all of us as councillors will have to make the decisions on in the coming weeks, months and years. But I want to take this opportunity to explain a little bit about what I see as the positive role of an opposition party. First and foremost, the role of my group is to hold the administration accountable. It is our responsibility to question and challenge policies and decisions put forth by the majority. By doing so, we all ensure that the council remains transparent, ethical and responsive to the needs of the community. We act as a critical voice. Potential flaws are identified and help to safeguard the public interest. We welcome and encourage healthy and constructive debates. It is through these discussions that innovative ideas can emerge, providing alternative approaches to governance and policy making. The opposition party acts as a catalyst for progress, pushing the administration to consider new perspectives, think critically and deliver the best outcomes for the community. We serve, as all councillors, as a crucial check and balance, ensuring that decisions are scrutinised, policies are inclusive and the interests of residents are represented. I hope and am confident that the administration will recognise and appreciate the important contributions of the opposition as we play a vital role in shaping the governance and progress of our community. In short, the title opposition, I admit I struggle with, but I understand it. My predecessor said that we will not oppose for the sake of opposing, and I 100% agree with that statement. Where we feel a decision, policy, etc. will bring benefit to Swale, we will support it and promote it. We are not enemies. Similarly, where we have differences, we will, and I do not apologise for this, raise these differences for the administration to consider. At the end of the day, the council is the sum of all members in the 4 groups, and I hope all voices will be heard, even if not actions. I look forward to developing and improving the relationship between the groups, as others have said, there is more that joins us than separates us. Moving on. In a democratic society, it is vital that our elected representatives embody the values of integrity, inclusivity, and respect. One fundamental principle of democracy here in the UK is the freedom to hold and express diverse beliefs. We are fortunate to live in a society where individuals can embrace a wide range of ideologies, perspectives, and opinions. It is this diversity that enriches our democracy, fuels constructive debates, and ultimately leads to better governance. As councillors, it is incumbent upon us not only to respect this diversity, but also to actively promote it. Seeing the changes in law in Uganda in the last few weeks regarding LGBTQIA+,
Councillor Ryan, that's not answering the statement.
is working together, where it makes it punishable by death to be gay is repulsive, and I think should be condemned and challenged by the international community. Whilst far from perfect, we are a more open-minded country, and I'm proud to be part of that, and also to be able to make statements like this without fear that I could be locked up, tortured, or killed. Councillors must be exemplars of respectful conduct. We should demonstrate utmost professionalism in our interactions with one another, with constituents, with individuals who hold opposing views, challenging as that may be at times. I recently have been called King John Lloyd, which is fine, but far from reality. Whilst disagreements are inevitable in politics, it is essential to engage in debates and discussions with civility and respect. Attacks, personal insults, or attempts to undermine someone's character have no place in political discourse. Instead, we should focus on the merits of the arguments and engage in substantive discussions that can help shape better policies rather than retort to insult or reference to sewers or rats. Respecting people's political beliefs goes beyond mere tolerance. It requires genuine empathy and a willingness to listen. We should make an effort to understand the concerns and aspirations of those we represent, even if they may differ in ideology or party affiliation. This not only promotes and trust,
30 seconds remaining.
thank you, but also enables us to make informed decisions in the realities that face our constituents. Finally, Madam Mayor, I would like to offer my congratulations to 2 people as well who were recognised in the King's Birthday Honours list. Nashima Raja, founder of Nims Fruit Crisp, who was awarded the MBE for service to small and medium enterprises, and Victoria Golding, wildlife rehabilitator for Kent Wildlife Trust, who was awarded the BEM for service to education, to charity and to animal welfare. Well done to both of those. I don't know if the Borough Council nominated
5 minutes.
one sentence.
One sentence.
Yeah. Anyone who may, but maybe this is something we should look into as more often, as there are no doubt lots of people who do extraordinary things within the borough, which we should be proud of. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Barry. Councillor Whiting, you wanted to say something?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to go after all the party leaders have spoken.
All right.
Thank you.
I invite Councillor I invite councillor Perkins to give her response to the statement.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't speak for long because it's 800 degrees and I'm sure people want to get out at some stage. So first of all, I completely echo councillor Bowen and also councillor Gibson's comments around working progressively together with all parties across the council for the sake of our community. And we also will not be opposing for opposition's sake. And I know that the comments in our inaugural meeting have made that very clear. You picked up on educational opportunities, and I just wanted to raise that the provision for SEN children in Swale continues to be very poor. Children are waiting 3 to 5 years for diagnosis of autism and ADHD, and it can be incredibly hampering to their success at schools. So I hope that as a council we can continue to advocate for families in that position within Swale. And then the final point is that in your leader speech you referenced Swale working together to become a kinder place, and I'd just like to raise that it is indeed Pride Month and also it is Refugee Week, so both of those are important that we should recognise. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Perkins. I'd now like to invite any members who wish to speak, and I've already seen that my councillor Whiting would like to.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really grateful. I'll pick up 3 points, if I may, from the leader's speech that relate to safety, perhaps to tourism also, and to our town centres. First of all, I mean, would he join me in thanking the absolute army of volunteers who regularly meet on the beaches of Sheppey to clean up the detritus that is washing ashore at every tide. They are it's a thankless task for them, but I believe that they do deserve our thanks. The safety, you mentioned safety leader for you, Madam Mayor, and we've got reports of asbestos being dumped on the Isle of Sheppey. And I appreciate the holding reply I received from the leader to a letter I wrote to him last week. But I welcome his views about how he is going to clear up this mess and what the council is going to do to help clear up this mess. Town centres, absolutely important. And I just wonder what the leader's plans are to revitalise those. It's fine to say they need revitalising. It's fine to say that we need to do something. So I'd be grateful if the leader could expand on what he said during his speech to allow us to understand what he's going to be doing, and particularly not just the 3 big town centres, but Queenborough, which I represent, you know, is a town centre in its own right that deserves some special attention. So I'd be grateful if when he's summing up, the leader could address that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Whiting. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was sitting here thinking, my God, we've got an awful lot of born-again Christians here. You know, people who you're not entitled to opinion because you're not in charge. And now the boot's on the other foot. It's it's quite interesting. In terms of the leader's speech, I was also at the Dock Yard Church, as a number of other people here were. And what actually stood out for me, and I pay tribute to my Conservative colleagues who were here at the time, was the thanks to Swale Borough Council for their help in getting it off the ground in the first place. Councillor Cosgrove at the time. Yes, we did. But it's very, very rare that Swale Borough Council gets effusive praise for the things that they're doing. More often than not, we're getting slagged off for, well, you haven't done this, that, and the other, which is not extremely fair. But it was very nice to hear them acknowledge our part in that restoration. I'll read my writing. Yeah. Other than that, I think I agree with everything that Councillor Gibson said. We should be working together. When we had the committee system in the past, I have to say this, there was a great deal more congeniality than there was with the cabinet system, although the cabinet system, when it started, there was a good lot of cross-party working, but it eventually got what, in my humble opinion, was extreme. So I hope that as we go forward with the committee system, we've had a year, but, you know, as we go forward, we should be working together on what is in the best interests of our communities. And in the past, it wasn't, oh, no, it's not Sheppey, so I'm not taking a blind bit of interest. It was what is best for Swale. And I hope that going forward that we can work in that way. And the final point that I would make, Madam Mayor, is that, yes, there is too much these days of, you don't agree with me, so you're wrong. I do not agree with most of the things which the party opposite have said over the past few years, and certainly not in government. But I'll defend
30 seconds remaining.
your right to say it. And I hope and pray that that is what actually gets out in this country, because more and more, if you've got a different opinion to a particular group, then you're wrong and you're harassed and belittled and all the rest of it. And I think it's totally wrong. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Councillor London, Andy, sorry.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Thank you for that, Councillor Gibson. I definitely agree with what you said about improving healthcare services and school services, and I'd like to know what your intentions are to improve the education provision on the island, particularly the possibility of building a new school, because many of the children that live in the ward that I represent have to travel miles and miles across to Sittingbourne every day, which is not as much of an issue perhaps in the summer months, but certainly in the winter months, they're having to make long journeys, walking to bus stops in the dark, that wouldn't be as much of a risk if they were able to travel to a school that was on the island. I'd also like to know about the improving the healthcare services, because obviously last year or the year before, a doctor's surgery was shut on the island, and about 9,000 patients were displaced and had to travel to other surgeries, some of which, once again, weren't on the island, which is fine if you're able-bodied and can drive, but if you're not able-bodied and can't drive, that proves real difficulties. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor London. Councillor Gould, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was pleased to hear in the statement a commitment to continue to try to work as hard as we can for the environmental issues. I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but I haven't seen a swallow or a house martin this year in my village, which is actually the symbol of Swale. And I think it's one of those things that creeps up on us, can easily go unnoticed with so many other distractions. The environmental crisis is ongoing, and I would hope that in his meetings with the leaders across all the councils and authorities, that this can be kept up on the agenda. It's a difficult one to keep up because, as I say, it's just there all the time. These issues don't go away. It's only when we begin to notice that actually something's gone and it's then too late. So please could we work hard across all the authorities to keep this high on the agenda, because it's the fundamental basis of everything else that we have on this planet.
Yes, well, so Councillor Gould, and we're very lucky in Tunstall because we have lots of us. So I think that's really nice. So Councillor Gibson, anybody else want to speak? Sorry, didn't ask. No? So Councillor Gibson, do you want to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to thank Councillor Bowen for his the term he used, opposition. I use a slightly different term, it's opportunity, and it gives us all an opportunity to work together. So just because you have a different view, as Councillor Harrison said, doesn't mean that you're wrong, and it doesn't mean that you're any more right than anybody. It just means you have a different view. And the important thing is that we're able to work together as adults for the people that actually elected us, and that's what we're here to do. And I know you and I have had that same conversation so many times. So I really do appreciate that. We had special education needs mentioned by Councillor Perkin. And you're absolutely right, and that was one of the things that I raised in a recent meeting with Roger Goff, KCC leader. And to be fair to him, there's an acknowledgement there that they have been found wanting in that area. And of course, as I said earlier, when you look at the budgets, you know, we aren't doing too badly. They've got to find 55 million ultimately from somewhere. So I understand all of that. But we're here to work for our residents. I echo your thoughts on the Pride and Refugee Month. It really is important, not just important in terms of words, but in terms of actions. And again, Councillor Bowen touched on that within his response. Councillor Whiting he knows only too well what my background is, and in terms of safety, I wouldn't say I'm risk averse, but safety does really mean one heck of a lot to me. And at the future council meeting, I may have a surprise for you all, but anyway, I'll keep that one under wraps. Yeah, I'm going to tell a joke that makes you all laugh. Yeah. You mentioned the asbestos being dumped, and yes, I did send you a response to your email, and I know you lovingly referred to it as a holding response, and it was at that stage because I needed to have conversations with both our officers and the MP, and we raised that. And I can assure you that certainly, if he hasn't spoken to the county councils on the island, he will be about some thoughts that he's got in ways that the county council can also assist. But I obviously can't reach any confidences, but there are things happening in the background, and some of those things.
30 seconds remaining.
Sure. Right, I've got my old skates on then. Town centres, revitalisation. Again, it's no secret the corporate plan will be going up for wider consultation with members. We'll be building that as we go forward. The Dockyard Church, I echo again Councillor Harrison's acknowledgement of the Conservative administration in getting off the ground, but what a fantastic thing it really, really is. Councillor Nundy, you mentioned healthcare services.
That is 3 minutes.
Thank you. I don't know where the speaking clock was coming from, but I shan't keep you much longer. So yes, what you're saying is echoed right across the borough, to be fair, in terms of GP provision. In Sittingbourne area alone, in Tenham, we've had a surgery that's been closed down. On Canterbury Road, we've had Beerstarker's surgery that's been closed down. We've got surgeries in special measures. We've got one that's run by just about entirely by locums. So I hear that. And when you say, what are we going to be doing about it? I have a nice wing lady, not wing man, that's out there literally as we speak, holding quite high level meetings with the NHS. So we really do hope to make some progress there. I'll share your concerns about the schools issue. And again, conversely, I had a resident that contacted me asking if I could help when he lives about 300 yards from the Sittingbourne School, and his daughter had been given, at that point in time, the Isle of Sheppey Academy. How can that be right? Absolutely ridiculous. So that's something I will be addressing that. Again, lobbying, because it's not purely an issue for us, but it is an issue that impacts on us and our residents. And Councillor Gold, yes, I've seen swallows in my neck of the woods, but I can absolutely categorically assure you of our commitment to environment and the green agenda, and we'll support that unashamedly all the way through, as I'm sure every member in this chamber would want us to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Move on now to agenda item 8, which is the motion on Faversham Tip. The motion concerning KCC's planned closure of Faversham Tip has been received as set out on the agenda. Councillor Williams, I invite you to propose the motion, please.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, you have 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much. So Faversham Household Waste Recycling Centre, known locally as TIP, provides an important service for the people of Faversham and surrounding villages by providing safe and responsible waste disposal, with much of this waste being able to be recycled. This is particularly true for more hazardous materials such as batteries, electricals, metals, oils and rubber. The proposal to close Faversham Tip is an environmental disaster and will push a cost onto residents already struggling with the cost of living. At a time when recycling and reusing materials is so important, closing a recycling centre seems not only irresponsible but goes against commitments to become net zero. The recommendations from KCC would see the closure of more than 20% of Kent's household waste recycling centres and likely increase the pressure on the remaining sites such as Sittingbourne and Sheerness. The information provided by KCC ahead of the consultation period is vague, and the recommendation argues that £1.5 million in total will be saved across Kent, but there is no breakdown of the different savings that there will be between different sites. There seems very little mapping to establish the consequences of closing Faversham's Tip and how.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
What?
Yeah, I was just my understanding that previously the proposer was to read out the actual content of their motion, as was previously done last year when motions came forward, and then they can embellish after they've read their motion.
Yes, that was agreed, yes.
Okay, I do apologise, Madam Mayor. I will try and read the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Clark, sorry.
So the motion is the Kent County Council have announced the plan to permanently shut down a number of public tips, also known as cut-off waste recycling centres, including Faversham Tip and Salters Lane. Residents have voiced their deep concern about this cut to a well-used service. The closure will force local residents to travel to Sittingbourne, Canterbury and other tips, cost us all time and money. It will create more traffic and may well lead to more fly tipping. It will also mean jobs in Faversham belonging to people who work at the tip will be lost and potentially additional costs to the Borough Council. This council strongly opposes the proposed closure and asks the leader to contact the relevant cabinet member at Kent County Council to make their opposition known. Thank you.
Councillor, Councillor Whiting, you wanted to speak?
Only after the motion has been seconded.
All right, okay. It's very eager. Okay. I'd like to ask Councillor Perkins to second the motion and ask if you wish to speak now or reserve your right. You have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Can I ask you a question first? Because Councillor Williams hasn't finished what he wrote. Is it okay for him to finish that, please?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry, thank you, Madam. KCC are stating, happy for me to carry on with my effort. KCC are stating that alternative options could be using Sittingbourne or Canterbury tips, but there are no evidence that these sites have the capacity to cope with increased demand. The Faversham site gets just under 900 visits a week, and to put this into context, over the 4 sites that are proposed to be closed, they have about 6,000 visits a week according to KCC. Where will residents of Faversham go instead, Sittingbourne or Canterbury? Sittingbourne is closer for most, but already well used and very busy, in particular at the weekend. The consequences for the Borough Council could be significant. Without easily accessible recycling services, risk of fly tipping could be increased, and the misuse of curbside waste and recycling bins could also be a major problem, resulting in potential financial implications for the Borough Council and people of Swales. Will recycling rates be compromised? If contamination of blue bin recycling occurs because people don't have access to other forms of recycling, will waste end up being incinerated instead? The burden of these savings the KCC are reportedly making potentially just be passed down the line, meaning that other services may be compromised as a result. The added travelling from Faversham to Sittingbourne will create more traffic on the already busy roads and produce further carbon emissions, which could see the Borough Council's climate action plan be set back. 5 miles driven results in 1 kilo of CO2 emitted. There are AQMAs that are located between Faversham and Sittingbourne, Ospinge and Newington, being identified as having poor air quality. Any additional traffic on this route will contribute to an already polluted area. Faversham Town Councils have objected to this proposal and started a petition which has already received nearly 1,500 people who have signed the petition. Liberal Democrats have also petitioned people of Faversham and reached over 3,000 signatures so far. So we can see that people of Faversham do not want this to happen. I hope the members of this council see the potential damage this closure will do to Faversham as well, and I hope that this motion is put through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Right, can I ask the leader now to speak? Oh, sorry, sir.
Yeah, I've seconded the motion and I'll reserve my right.
Around a bit later, just to confuse me on the first one. Lovely. Okay, thank you for that. That's good. Do you want to speak on that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Williams and Councillor Perkin. You nearly got in there. One of your requests there is for me to write to the cabinet member. I've actually, you won't be surprised, some time ago now, written to Roger Goff, the leader of Kent County Council, expressing a view that our residents would just not accept the closure of the tip for all the reasons that you've said and reasons highlighted earlier in a question from Councillor Golding. And the leader of the Greens on this council has also written to the cabinet member expressing very, very similar views. So rest assured you will have my support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Can I ask Councillor Bowen if you wish to speak on this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whilst I appreciate that KCC have budget, up a line. This motion relates to the proposal from KCC to close the household waste centre at Faversham. And whilst I appreciate that KCC have budget issues, just like Swale does, and the people all over the country, this decision, if implemented, would have potentially dire consequences for the communities and the environment we hold dear, particularly in the eastern area of the borough. First and foremost, the closure of this waste centre would severely impact the convenience and accessibility for residents. Currently, this facility serves as a vital resource for proper waste disposal, allowing residents to responsibly manage their household waste. By shutting it down, residents would be left with limited alternatives, forcing them to travel longer distances, wasting precious time and resources. Such a burden on the community is not only inconvenience, but also unfair to the residents who rely on this facility. Furthermore, let's not forget the environmental implications of closing the waste centre. Our planet is facing an urgent crisis with escalating pollution and diminishing resources. The closure of Faversham Waste Centre would contribute to this problem by potentially increasing illegal dumping and improper waste disposal. It would create a breeding ground for environmental hazards, polluting our land, air, and maybe even our water. The presence of a functioning waste centre is crucial for promoting recycling and sustainable waste management practices. Closing this facility would hinder our efforts to reduce waste, recycle materials, and protect our environment for future generations. It is our responsibility to make conscious choices that prioritise sustainability and preserve our natural resources. Shutting down the waste centre contradicts these goals and undermines our commitment to a greener future. The closure of Faversham Household Waste Centre is a decision that would, I think, negatively impact our community, environment and economy. I urge KCC to reconsider and recognise the importance of maintaining this vital resource for the benefit of our community and well-being of our borough. I will be supporting this motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. So I'm now going to open the debate to members. I've got a couple of people, members that want to speak. Councillor Whiting, would you like to start?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm obliged to you. I have issues with what has been published about what the county council might want to do with the waste recycling centre in Faversham. It was I, wearing another hat, who raised the issue of the air quality management areas in Tenham and in East Street and elsewhere in Sittingbourne that may be impacted by the closure of the Faversham site. My issue at the moment is KCC has not published its consultation. Its consultation will be published on the 18th of July. And then we will see what they are actually proposing and then what we can object to. If we can object now, of course we can. And I'm grateful to the leader and others for writing to various cabinet members and the leader of the KCC, expressing their views now. One of the things I proposed at the last Environment Committee meeting at KCC, on which I'm a member, was that the committee members should be meeting with the cabinet member to go through what may end up being in the consultation. And the last of those meetings was 10 o'clock this morning. She has still yet to decide what's going to be in the consultation. So while I agree, very much with the sentiments that have been expressed, the only question I have as a council is, do we want to respond now? Or do we want to respond to what the consultation is about, which won't happen until after the 18th of July? So I'm happy either way, Madam Mayor, and I've expressed my concerns about what was in the press and what was in the original report that went to KCC's committee meeting. But there is no decision yet about what will be in the consultation. And I just wonder, I take some advice perhaps from even from the chief exec about where we should be aiming our fire. Is it now, or is it once the consultation has been published?
30 seconds remaining.
Thank you.
Councillor Whiting, Councillor Martin, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Personally, I like the idea of firing twice. There's nothing wrong with firing 2 missiles when you've got 2 missiles. Ask anyone in the audience that question. But quite frankly, when it comes to the household waste recycling centre, you close one, you move problems somewhere else. What you get is an increase in fly tipping incidents around about, and it doesn't just affect your borough and district councils. It affects your management companies of your private estates. It affects your housing associations who have to clear the land that they have. It affects your farmers and your businesses who own land who have to pay for their own removal when the fly tipping goes on their land. And actually, will it save KCC money, or will we end up with some more just dumped randomly on some of the roads around and about, as we've seen in East Downs Ward no end of times around on the route out to Newnham and Donington. A number of times I've been turned around trying to get through somewhere because someone's dumped a stack of tyres in the road. That was just when they introduced having to book slots and still not removed it. Imagine it when it's completely closed. Suddenly the opportunist just goes, well, I'm not wasting my petrol travelling through Sittingbourne in a standstill through 6 sets of traffic lights, 2 AQMAs, and then queuing for 2 hours to actually get in, because that's what we'll end up with. Or they'll go to Canterbury, and again, you've still got to go through AQMAs in Canterbury district. It makes no sense. Every option that was put forward in that draft consultation document, including the closure of Faversham household waste recycling. It's not the first time KCC had tried to close the amenity tips in Faversham. Back in 1974, the amenity tip was on the Han Road. It was run by Faversham Borough Council. Then we had the local government reorganisation. It was transferred to KCC, and they abruptly closed it. Luckily, the town council at the time that took over from the council decided to petition the Secretary of State to utilise the powers that they had under the 1974 Local Government Act to insist on the provision of amenity tips. Are we really going to have to go down that route again? Or is there another way for the county to look at trying to save money rather than passing the buck? We saw it on the homelessness projects over the last couple of years, where KCC cut their service and it passed the costs on to district and borough councils. We have seen it other ways where cuts are made and the costs are passed on to us. This is not about saving money, it is about pushing the cost to somebody else. And we should stand up now and support this motion and say no.
Councillor Martin. Councillor Henderson, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't take long with this, just to say I support the idea entirely. I'd be more than happy if we pursue the motion and write to KCC now and make sure we are also talking to KCC, simply really to say, you can't do this without any justification. And there is no justification so far. They claim they will save £1.5 million. However, it's quite clear that by the time you've taken 10,000 extra journeys at 45p a mile for Sittingbourne or Canterbury, when you've taken the cost of additional fly tipping, of course, won't fall on KCC by and large. When you talked about the additional cost for the borough council, because some people may switch to using brown bins rather than going to this tip, it's a nonsense. The cost of implementing this is at least double the saving. And we need to get that message across to KCC. And it's essential that it keeps going. Thank you.
Councillor Henderson, Councillor Harrison. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This motion, I presume it would be passed, I can't think of anyone who would have a problem with it, is to say this isn't just a Faversham problem, this is a borough problem. And we all support the sentiments behind it. The leader of this council has already taken up the matter with the leader of KCC. I doubt he'll be taking it up again. I would expect when the official consultation starts, that then we will have a very detailed response to the consultation. So I think Councillor Whiting's putting those old red herrings about. I can't see what the problem with this is. Of course, if one is to believe the press, they're also going to be shut in Sheerness a couple of days a week. Whatever option we choose is shut in Sheerness a couple of days a week. You know, and yeah, we're not happy either. When the detailed proposal comes out, I expect a detailed response to go from this council via the leader. But, you know, we are where we are. This is just to show that we support it, which I'm hopeful that we will. But as I say, this business of, well, you know, do you want to wait and write and then write again? No, it's already written. So watch what you're doing. You're on there antagonising them. I don't suppose the people who put the motion in knew that he'd already written. But that is part of the leader's job, to see what the issues are and to raise them on behalf of this council. Not wait for somebody to put a motion forward to tell you what to do, because I think you're a bit more tuned in than that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Jackson, please.
Thank you for letting me speak, Madam Mayor. This is going to be short and sweet, entirely what's shorter than Councillor Henderson's. I'd like to support this motion as this amenity is very much needed in the ever-expanding population of Faversham. If removed, it follows other amenities that have been stripped from town, job centre, youth club, banks, etc. So if KCC carry out this closure, and I'm not going to mention, I am, fly tipping, more cars on the road, but importantly, there's employees at this centre who probably face redundancy. This should be non-political. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson and Councillor Winkless.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not going to repeat go over what previous speakers have said, but I'm totally behind this motion. I think we've got to make our views known now to KCC before the main consultation comes out. And I, like a few of us, have been around quite a long time, and I seem to remember that before we started charging to use the tips, there wasn't the amount of fly tipping that's going on there. But that is a slightly different issue. But I'm totally behind this motion, and I will be voting for it.
Thank you, Councillor Winkless. Does anybody else wants to speak before I allow Councillor Whiting to? Councillor Washington, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's only a very quick one. You says that if if it's a proposal, I think we should object to it now. And that we should word it in a manner that to the proposed possible closure. Therefore, we get our first bite in and then the ability to fight in after. Thank you.
Councillor. Before Councillor Perkin comes back and seconded it, Councillor Whiting, very briefly though.
Very briefly, I'm very grateful to you, Madam Mayor. It's not my intention to oppose what's being proposed. What my intention was simply point out the facts of the matter, that we're not at a stage yet where the official consultation is taking place. And I would not want this council to fetter the leaders and the officers' discretion in their formal response to whatever may come forward on the 18th of July. So that's a serious concern. It's not a red herring, Councillor Harrison. I'm simply suggesting that we don't fetter the officers and the leaders.
Thank you, Councillor Whiting.
That's it. And the second thing I will say very quickly is,
No, honestly, I said that so briefly, so thank you.
yeah, the government's going to make it illegal for us to charge for waste and charge for
Please sit
brown
down.
bins. Thank you.
Next one. Right, Councillor Perkin, will you?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. So just to pick up a few points that have been mentioned, I suppose. Firstly, on Councillor Whiting's point, I don't think it's particularly controversial to say that at this stage in the consultation, when there isn't even a consultation, that the complete closure of Faversham here is something that is going to impact on the rest of our riding. I don't think that would be an unnecessary thing for us to do as a council right now. And then you're absolutely correct that there should be a really detailed response to the formal consultation. That's a very important role that the council have to play. On Councillor Jackson's point about the politicisation of this, I don't think it's a political point. I think it's a cross-party political issue. KCC are a political body, Swellborough Council are a political body. It's put forward to create a strong collective message to KCC from all members of the council that we strongly oppose the proposal and that our residents deserve better and our environment deserves better. So it is a political issue in that we are both members. KCC is a political organisation as well as a political organisation. So also on my thanks go to the leader of the council, which when we proposed the motion had not driven me to get to the leader. So thank you for the work that has already been done. And also thanks to Councillor Lehman, who isn't here, but I'd like to put a thanks to him as well on record for doing that. And I very much hope that all members of the council can support this motion. So as I said, so that we can put a collective response to the county council that the council as an entire body objects to the proposals. Thank you. I'm happy to second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. And finally, Councillor Williams, I know you've had a lot to say on this motion. Do you wish to say anything else in sum up? Please, Station.
Sorry, Madam Mayor. No, I'm just thanks everyone for all members for their comments. I'm happy to move the motion.
So we'll now have a vote on the motion. All those in favour, please raise their hands clearly. Anyone against? Any abstentions? So we have a unanimous vote on that motion. Thank you very much. Item 9, Area Committee's Achievements Report. I invite Councillor Gibson to speak and propose the recommendations, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm getting rather fed up sitting there, not standing up again for the last 3 minutes. So once again, I'll be really brief. It's quite a simple report. It's for noting, and it's to provide councillors with a summary of the achievements of the 4 area committees since they were implemented in September 2020. Second of that.
Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm quite happy to formally second and reserve my right to speak in the event that there is anything that didn't come up at the 4 area committees when this report went to said 4 area committees. You never know, some people might have read it again.
Thanks, councillor Harrison. So I invite councillor Bowen to speak. if he wishes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's look at the reasons, or one of the reasons why the area committees were created. Better engage with residents. So picture this. You're a resident of Swale, passionate about the community, and you decide to engage with the Borough Council by coming to an area committee. You eagerly attend a meeting armed with ideas, aspirations, and maybe a touch of optimism. As you step into the room, you can't help but notice the sparse attendance. It's like a game of musical chairs, but where the chairs far outnumber the participants. Undeterred, you take a seat, ready to make your voice heard. You wait patiently as the council members begin the meeting, and here's where the amusement begins. It's been known for council members to decide to showcase their impeccable talent for jargon-filled speeches that seem to have been crafted by linguistic acrobats. You, our resident, find yourself struggling to decipher what they're actually discussing, whether it's a community development or reciting Shakespeare. Then you find that one resident who takes the opportunity to transform the meeting into a venting session. You can't help but chuckle at the sheer level of detail they provide, a truly award-winning performance in the category of minor inconveniences. You wait, your moment which seems to be ever so far away as the agenda isn't made up by what residents want, but what the council decides to include, often a very specific to a relatively small catchment of people. But amongst the laughter and eye rolling, there are glimpses of progress. You witness the dedication of a council member who genuinely listens and takes notes, ready to tackle the issues at hand. But the area committees can do very little, even less now due to budget issues, making them only really useful for taking and sending letters, talking and sending letters. But whilst the area committees have achieved, I don't dispute that at all, and financed a few amount of projects, sadly, they do not tick the box for public engagement, and now cannot tick the box for supporting initiatives. So sadly, whilst we acknowledge the work done, and it's good work done, the future, I think, needs a rethink. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Bowen. Councillor Birkin, would you like to speak on this? Thank you, councillor Birkin. So I now open the debate to members, and so far I've got councillor White would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a relatively extremely new councillor, I would just like to say that within my very small amount of time, I won't speak very long. However, the area committees, I would like to take actually somewhat the opposite view. No, I do respect your viewpoint on this. However, as we saw through the levelling up bid process through Sheerness, we had an immense amount of community engagement. In fact, this was the committee where residents were able to bring their viewpoints, and where the idea of first bringing back the masts from Montgomery back to the island, if it goes ahead that they come off, was first floated by resident Tim Bell. I'd also like to highlight that the area committees are one of the areas that I think have been a very big success for engagement in inclusivity, which I'm ever so pleased that Swale does. For instance, your online meetings, having the opportunity for all the residents to engage has been absolutely fantastic. I'm aware that they will not come with a potential budget this time, but we can do more than budget. We can galvanise, we can encourage, and more importantly, we can take residents with us, which I'm incredibly passionate about, and I know my fellow island councillors are too. So I would like to say well done and thank you to all of those that made area committees possible, and for the very, very good work that was done for the last period. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor White. Councillor Whiting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do promise this will be the last time I speak. I'm very much, yeah. Yes, the area committees have done some good work, but they were empowered to do some of that good work with the money that was allocated to them to spend. They no longer have any money to allocate. I have yet to attend an area committee to hear things that have not been raised by residents at their parish council meetings. And I accept that Sittingbourne doesn't have a parish council. I accept that halfway on the Isle of Sheppey doesn't have a parish council. But they do have elected members. If those elected members are engaged with their communities, they can raise those issues that are of import to those people. I question how much these cost. How much did it cost to set up an area meeting with officers present, with members present, charging their expenses to get to the meeting, and all of the other ancillary costs that come with holding a meeting that whose content, as has been pointed out, can well be represented in this chamber by the elected members or at various parish councils. So I would really urge, I mean, great, the area committees have done what they've done, but I think they've outlived their usefulness, in my view. And I would ask that the leader perhaps takes this back to the administration and reconsiders. When we're cutting so much money elsewhere, when we're charging volunteers to park in car parks in Sheerness at night so that they can train young people to learn to swim, we're charging those volunteers money to park in car parks. And we're doing that at the same time as we're wasting money holding meetings that achieve nothing more than can be achieved through other channels. So I would seriously ask, and I know of volunteers at the Sheerness Swimming Club that are now not volunteering. They're not volunteering. I visited it last week because it's too much of a cost to them to do it now, because we have imposed a cost on them. So if we're going to split money and spend money wisely, I would suggest we spend it supporting volunteers who are helping our communities, and we do slightly less in rubbing our own egos by having meetings that no one attends, and that we can achieve everything we want to achieve through the other avenues that are available to us. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Whiting. Councillor Stephen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll start off by once upon a time, but I think someone else has already tried that. I'm sorry, but I don't know what area committees you attend. The Western Area Committee that we attend has good results, and a lot of people that want to voice their opinions can do so. That's the general public, the parish councillors, the councillors from both sides, or all sides, and all parties. Now, to say it's a waste of time, what's the other option? This is giving people the opportunity to say things. This is what the last meeting we had was regarding to prioritise what you felt needed to be done. And that was the opportunity for not just residents, not just parish councillors, but also councillors to prioritise things like the parking situation. And I sympathise with them a lot, because I think it's wrong that they should be paying. But that was the opportunity to put that suggestion forward, to prioritise it, and to get it to full council, to get it to the council to now decide, because that is the objectives now of the area committees. Yes, we have no finances anymore, but we can put forward priorities to the council to get things done. And that was the opportunity you had at that meeting, where everybody got together into groups and started to prioritise. I thought it was a wonderful idea. It would have been much nicer if we could have said how much do you want, but we can't do that. We have to go deal with realities here. And I don't think that by now sort of changing from a area committee system back to a cabinet system, it's too early. We haven't given it a chance. Well, what's the difference then? How are we going to actually give our residents the chance to say things with us at a meeting? Thank you.
Councillor Cutler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like Councillor White, I'm very new. I found probably the Western Area Committee the best meeting I've been to. We all worked together, we talked. I found that we all had a common problem with lack of buses. It wasn't just in my ward. We had parish councillors who turned up. We had even a councillor from the island who came to check something out. I think apart from the obvious point of the meeting, it will also encourage people who are councillors to think we're not an intimidating bunch, that maybe in the future they can also stand. But yeah, for me, I think it's absolutely invaluable. It's bringing us all together in maybe a less formal setting than this. And it would be a travesty for it to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. What's the vote on this?
Thanks, Madam Mayor, sorry, I changed my mind. So I guess I've got a few points. Engagement to meetings of any kind is really up to us to kind of start promoting. There's lots of people that would come to meetings and be involved in community discussions if they felt like that was something they were able to do. I've forgotten your name, I apologise. Councillor Kavanagh has already pointed out that it might make people feel like they can be involved in local democracy, and more kind of different ranges of people that are involved in democracy, the better. Councillor Bowen pointed to the fact that jargon is unhelpful, and in meetings jargon is unhelpful, but I just wanted to give a bit more credit to the public for what they can understand and what they can't understand, which I'm sure is quite fine. I also think the power of advocacy and having avenues to have your voice heard could be really important for community engagement, and the area committees do provide that. I think there's probably room for improvement in how we do that, and I don't think they're a perfect model, certainly far from it. But I'd like to see us really try and engage with the public and encourage them in, and then make their priorities the priorities of the area committee, make the people's priorities the priorities that we work towards with our corporate plan, because we're all elected to represent them, not here to further our own agendas. And also, you know, I have a bit of a conflict of interest because I'm the new chair of the Eastern Area Committee. But in previous meetings of the Area Committee, Faversham and the Eastern Area Committee, they've been well attended. People have come and spoken about things that are bugging them. People have come and done presentations about things they're doing within the community. And it's been a really nice way of kind of not only picking up on the minutiae problems that people do have, but also celebrating the great things that are happening in our community that don't get enough credit a lot of the time. So I think that there's real potential. Yes, we don't have a budget, but who does at the moment? Like, people are great at making things out of nothing. Let's give it a chance and let's see what we can come up with. Thank you.
Councillor Burke, Councillor Carnell, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last night we had the Sittingbourne Area Committee. We had 10 members of the general public turn up. We had a very, very good discussion. They told us what they felt we could do for them, and we discussed it. I think it can be improved with perhaps more communication that these are going ahead. I mean, I put on Facebook that it was going ahead, but overall, I think it's done wonders. Even though we haven't got any money, we can still talk together, talk to our residents and see what they want to say, not just completely ignore them and come up with some fictitious, whatever they want. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't actually going to say something tonight. I was going to be a quiet little mouse, as this is my first time speaking, but I feel I need to say something. I was at the Sittingbourne Area Committee last night, and it was a very interesting meeting. It was a meeting where people were able to say what they wanted to say, and I think that's part of the issue we've got here. The public do come and see us for casework, but sometimes they feel a bit intimidated by coming to council meetings, as we can see by the amount of members of the public that are here tonight. The area committees give members of the public the opportunity to come and talk to us, to come and make us accountable, to come and tell us what they think we should be doing. And if we take that democratic right away from the public, they're not going to thank us for it. And saying it's wasting money having area committees is completely wrong. We're not in it for the money. The people aren't in it for the money. They are there to have their voice heard. Now, Councillor Whiting, you said the thing about the volunteers and how they're having to pay out of their own pockets, and that is wrong. But perhaps I need to be clear, I am a volunteer for an organisation. I don't volunteer so that they can give me money. I volunteer
for here, because I care about what I'm doing. I'm not saying those volunteers don't care, but I'm sure that they are not in it for the money either. So, Madam Mayor, through you, I would encourage more communication with the public out there about area committees. Get them in, get them involved, get them engaged, and it's the only way you can get area committees to work efficiently. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Watson. Councillor Winchester, please.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, two previous speakers have basically what I've got to say. At the meeting last night, there was 7 members of the public there. And when we broke up the discussion groups.
10, Tony, 10.
10. Oh, I must have your eyes shut then. Anyway, and they engaged basically and gave their suggestions. I must admit most of them because from the public, but that's not here or there. That's the next point that just been touched on. I think we ought to advertise these better to the public that these meetings are taking place. As you say, it does give the public a chance to have an input and they feel valued within the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Winchester. Anyone else? Councillor James?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the main opposition problems of area committee helps highlight the ineptitude of KCC, say prop up. In fact, they're running into the ground sort.
Councillor James, Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. I think Councillor Watson did sort of cover most of the points that I was going to raise. So I'll try and be a little bit brief, but look around tonight. There's no members of the public here. We've had an hour or so waffling on. Why don't we scrap full council? Because I actually think there's more involvement from members of the public coming along and giving their views. And we're here as part of the democracy and the democratic process. And when someone says it's expensive, yes, democracy is expensive because many people have paid the ultimate sacrifice so that people can have their say in a free and open society. Thank you.
Councillor Palmer. I'm going to give an example from Western Area Committee and how positive it was the other night. I networked with Mayor and there was a baby tribute charity that we met. I was able to take that to the Western Area Committee and we passed a motion to allow to get started on getting permission for the memorial to be in King George's playing fields. So it works, you know, the charity counters, it's not just the general public. And I know I've set the wheels in motion with Councillor White over at the island, and this is not going to cost us anything. The charity will supply everything. And I think it's so important. I know there's one coming into Faversham. So that's the sort of thing area committees are for. We might not be able to give them money, but we are giving chances for things to happen in the community. So anybody else want to speak? No? So shall I? Are we agreeing this report? So we're noting your report? Oh, sorry, no, hang on. That's the Harrison, sorry.
Which I would come back. Lastly, because I, you know, probably a brainstorm, which is why I didn't hear about it, but the memorial for babies, blah, 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 was agreed for Beachfield in Sheerness about 2 years ago. We've been waiting for the charity to basically, you know, top and tail. So it isn't somebody needs to get on and do it. We as a council have already agreed what's what, and it's just down to the charity to get it moving. So it doesn't need anyone else to get involved. The officers are waiting for the charity to come back to them. The other point, Madam Mayor, is the area committees were about engagement. Now, I've seen various iterations over the years. The very first one, hat off to Councillor Paul Rea. Not saying Lib Dem, because I don't know if it was Lib Dem at the time or Social Democrat or whoever it was, but actually got these off the ground, and what a great success they were. The problem we've had in the last 3 years is in my view, and I objected most strongly, I overall, was the money. I said the money will colour what people come along for. And people come along to get a slice of the pie. Can't blame them. But what they've always been about in the past is about engagement with the community. And one of the best Sheppey areas, I can't speak for the other three, one of the best Sheppey areas in the last couple of years was when the then leader of the council asked for Marissa White, KCC Education, to go along to each of the areas and talk about education in that area. And certainly the talk she did to us on Sheppey was absolutely fantastic. She really knows her onions. She is a brilliant officer. And she told us chapter and verse about what was, is, could be, what she's working on, and the whole, the only problem was that somebody thought it was down to her, that there were issues, and she is merely an officer. But she did get it in the neck from a few people. But that is the sort of thing which these committees could and should be doing. Now, yes, we might talk in community committee about can we lobby KCC to get a SEND school in Merstham. But you wouldn't sit at community committee and discuss education in detail on the Isle of Sheppey, Sittingbourne, Faversham and outlying areas. But we could do that on Sheppey. I say the people that turned up at that was really, really good. When we were going through the love bids, you know, the amount of people who turned up and wanted to put their 2 pence forward, it was really, really good. And that's what it was about, community engagement.
30 seconds.
We as a council, you'll need to hear this one. We were allowed to put our budgets up 2.99% or 5 quid, whatever was the rate, 2.99% when inflation was 10+%. But if you put your council, say you pay £100, you put it up 2.99%, you get an extra £2.99, right? If you don't put the council tax up at all for several years, then that 100 quid is less than, it gets less and less and less. And if 1 year you actually cut the council tax, this is why we are in such a problem, because of the antics of the Conservatives across the room, who over the years have played politics with the budgets of this council. If it weren't for your we'd be
Okay, so I'd like to ask the council to note this report. Does everyone agree?
No.
Right, I'm going to close the meeting, and I think it's 29 minutes past 8. I have forgotten to